Hey guys, how's it going? In this week's video, it's going to be a fitting video for my Flags of the World dress project. Now, I kind of briefly teased this project a couple videos back during my mid-2017 kind of roundup video, but this particular project, and I got my little flyer right here, is actually being co-hosted by a few other women, and there are prizes involved, so if you're not already doing this project, there's still time for you guys to get involved. So the participants on this are Judith D, we have Akram, and we have Renata, all of which are on YouTube. Their YouTube channel links are going to be down in the description below. But we do have several prizes before I get started about the project. So the first one, $50 gift card to LA Finch Fabrics. Then we have a $50 voucher for Sewing and Design School, as well as a free pattern from Dressy Talk, or Dressy Talk. Either way, definitely check out their vlog videos about this below, which kind of talk about the hashtags to be used, or you can find us all on Instagram, links down below, all that good stuff. Alright, so for my project specifically, I'm going to be doing Butterick 6282, which is a 1941 design, which is going to be the one that we're fitting today. This particular piece does have some insane shoulder pads, so I don't have shoulder pads made up at this time. I'm thinking about making a small video about that later as a technique video, but for the purposes of this muslin, I am using my boyfriend's rolled up socks that are stuffed underneath my bra strap. So you guys will get to see that during the fitting process. Don't laugh. He's mad that I stole his socks, but it works, okay? It works. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I was not kidding that I am using my boyfriend's socks for my faux shoulder pads in this fitting process. So I'm just rolling them up, and you can see there I'm kind of making them in the shape of shoulder pads, sticking them under there before I try on the muslin straight out of the pattern. So this is everything straight from the pattern as it is designed out of the package, and already off the bat I already know ahead of time that it's too long, and here I'm kind of just fixing my ribbon, my waist ribbon, just so you guys can get a better gauge of where my actual natural waist is at. The black line across the bottom is the waistline of the pattern, so you kind of see it's still going to be too long, the sleeve's too big, and even if you're looking at the fold that I'm doing right there, that I'm gonna have to take up quite a lot. I think in the end I end up taking about an inch, I think, an inch and a half, but you can kind of see I'm folding it up so you can see that, as well as, yes, I will need an adjustment on the bust. So first things first, I go ahead and I start my shortening of the bodice. So this particular bodice does have its lengthen and shorten lines, and so I take mine up about an inch and I tape everything in place. I still wanted to keep that kind of baggy, loose style that comes with this particular design, so I didn't want to shorten it too much, but just enough to where it doesn't look like a sack on me. Here I am drawing in my lines for my sway back. For this particular design, it wasn't really necessary, but I preferred to do it just to take out a little bit of that bagginess that I knew was going to be in the back that was a little bit unnecessary. So this is essentially shortening the center back line by doing a quick little pinch, like almost like a little tuck in the center back. And if you do this adjustment, you want to just make sure to redraw that center back line. So I go ahead and I tape in a long strip of paper, I take my ruler and I go ahead and I straighten that center back line just so that I cut everything out properly from the real fabric when the time comes. As you guys know, I go through quite a lot of paper, so at this point I'm just taking out any extra so I can have a simple pattern piece, or at least as simple as I can get it to be. Cool, so this is muslin number 2. The length is great. You can see that my center back line is pretty much where it needs to be, and At this point, I can tell I really need to do that adjustment. Now, I did account for the ease in the pattern, so I actually didn't really have to add so much more. I think I figure out that I need about 1 inch to be added. And then I can also see that my sleeve is just really all weird, so I can kind of gauge later on how much of the sleeve I'm gonna have to take. But let's go ahead and get started on the full bust adjustment itself. This particular design doesn't have darts. It is nothing but gathers. But the thing is that the gathers and the design of the gathers is that there's already a bunch of ease. So luckily for me, that meant that I only had to add a little bit than I normally might have to add. So right now I'm drawing in where the gathers are. You can see those squiggly lines is where the gathers would be on the pattern, but I'm going to be using those as darts. So I go ahead and I draw in my lines for my full bust adjustment as I would be doing on a regular pattern. So that's the line down the center bottom dart, down the side seam, up to the armpit. So go ahead and just draw those lines in as you would normally. At this point, once those lines are drawn in and cut out, go ahead and spread your pattern like you would a normal full bust adjustment. I mean, of course, we will be dealing with gathers, but you still really need a little bit of that extra distance if you kind of had the same issues that I had. Mainly, the ease could have worked, except for my armpit area and my sleeve area were still pulling, and for me that was not going to work out. I wanted just a little bit more space in that area. So tape everything back down, continuing your steps as if you're doing a full bust adjustment on a regular bodice. So here I'm extending the center front, squaring that off, and then the bottom of this particular gathered piece does have just a slight curve along the bottom. Well, so this is where it starts getting tricky. Now, once you have redrawn in all your lines and kind of identified the lines just in general, I went ahead and I cut into that side dart that was formed when I did the full bust adjustment. Because essentially what you're going to be doing is rotating the fullness of that dart to the other darts in the pattern. So I'm closing up that side dart that is not part of the design. See that, and I'm gonna go ahead and just stick some tape in there. But while I close everything up, you see that the top dart opened up, so that would add a little bit more fabric to the gathers in the top, just to accommodate that full bust adjustment. I'm filling it in with just a little bit more paper across the top. And stick with me, guys. I know it looks a little bit weird, but you have essentially just spread that dart around for the gather. So here I am taking my French curve to redraw in that shoulder line. And this that I'm putting the squiggly is going to be where you gather on your pattern at this point. Redraw your side seam just to square that off. And I just redrew in a new shoulder seam. If you haven't watched the video on using the French curve, go ahead and watch that to kind of get an idea of that. And I also walked the seams as well on the side seams. And again, there's another video about that as well if you don't know how to do that. Now, this is where I kind of started getting a little bit crazy. I definitely wanted to take in the shoulder just slightly. I saw that the shoulder seam was a little bit off of my natural shoulder, so I took it in about 5/8 of an inch on the top of the shoulders before moving on to the sleeve. Now, I'll be completely honest, with sleeves, there's definitely still a lot for me to learn. So a lot of the changes that I do in this section are me kind of going by my intuition, doing maybe a little bit of research just to kind of go with it and kind of get a feel, especially as I do more garments with more complicated sleeves. So first things first is I drew almost like a T on my sleeve so that I could shrink the sleeve cap and also shrink the width of the sleeve, just because my arms are very, very thin. which is kind of almost annoying because I can't wear bangles or anything cute on my wrist because my wrists and my arms are so thin. So I'm going ahead and I'm just cutting everything all the way down to where the seam line would be. And then to narrow everything, you actually overlap everything. So here I'm making sure that my overlap at the bottom is about 1/2 inch. And I re-tape up the sleeve cap. And same thing at the bottom, I overlapped it about 1/2 inch. I'm also just filling in the areas that were left open with some paper. When everything was filled back in, I wanted to go ahead and narrow these sleeves just a touch around the elbows and down to the wrists. I didn't do too much. I just kind of brought it in about 1/4 inch or so and just redrew those curved lines with my French ruler. But I did this on both sides and just took in just a slight amount just to narrow it super slightly, because remember we did do the overlap, so I didn't want to do too much. And also because on this side it's kind of a concave shape, I definitely had to put in my seam allowance again to make sure that I didn't cut too deep into the piece of paper. And trim that out. And I went ahead and stitched up my final muslin at this point. So as you can see here, it's looking pretty good. I have enough space for my chest. I have my center front line looking good. Now I did do an extra muslin of the sleeve and I accidentally went too tight, so I went back to the original version, which is there, and it looks good. I have enough movement and we're good to go. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys want to see the fitting process for the bottom of the piece, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. I decided not to focus on that just because the top was so complicated in terms of video format. It'd be kind of a really long video. If you guys really wanted to see that though, just let me know and I'll see if I can whip up another short video about fitting the skirt portion of this. But yeah, the next video in this little video series is going to be about actually the sewing of it and getting those buttons nice and perfect in the fabric and all that good stuff. Anyway, if you liked the video, thumbs up, subscribe, all the places, all the stuff, Patreon link somewhere here, and I'll go ahead and see you guys in the next one. Bye.